Some people look at a baby and feel their heart melt. Others look at a baby and feel nothing. Not hatred, not disdain, just absence. A quiet stillness where others feel instinct. In a world that has long equated parenthood with purpose, choosing not to have children can seem like swimming against the current of humanity itself. Yet for many, it's not rebellion. It's not selfishness. It's clarity. Behind that decision often lies an intricate psychology, a mix of values, self-awareness, and emotional logic that shapes how a person sees their future. Because the truth is, not wanting children doesn't always mean someone lacks love or depth. Sometimes it means they've learned to love differently, with boundaries, awareness, and intention. To understand those who choose a child-free life, we first need to let go of the idea that everyone's fulfillment must look the same. Psychologists have long noted that human motivation follows a spectrum. For some, joy is found in nurturing, legacy, and family continuity. For others, it's in freedom, self-mastery, creativity, or contribution through different forms, mentoring, art, ideas, or service. Choosing not to have kids is rarely about rejecting life. It's about curating it. Many of these individuals have deeply reflective personalities. They ask, what kind of world would I bring a child into? Or would I be the parent I needed when I was young? These aren't cynical questions. They're existential ones. And beneath them lies a powerful psychological theme: autonomy. The need to live a life directed by personal choice, not social expectation. Because while some feel a natural pull toward parenthood, others feel an equally natural pull toward self-determination, the freedom to design their lives on their own terms. Psychologists often describe this through the lens of intrinsic versus extrinsic motivation. Intrinsic motivation comes from within, a sense of purpose rooted in one's own values and meaning. Extrinsic motivation comes from the outside, the social rewards, approval, and validation we gain from following expected paths. People who choose not to have children often lean heavily on the intrinsic side. They tend to define success by authenticity, not conformity. Take Maya, for instance, a 35-year-old writer who once said, "I don't feel broken for not wanting kids. I feel more myself." Her childhood was filled with emotional chaos, parents arguing, expectations crushing her individuality. For her, motherhood represents not a dream, but a weight, a continuation of patterns she worked hard to escape. Psychologists call this intergenerational pattern awareness. It's the ability to recognize emotional legacies and decide which ones end with you. For Maya, not having kids isn't avoidance, it's healing. Another layer is emotional bandwidth. Some people are acutely aware of their limits. They know that raising a child requires constant emotional energy, patience, and presence. And if they don't feel equipped to give that fully, they'd rather not do it halfway. This self-awareness can be misinterpreted as coldness, but it's actually a form of emotional responsibility. Understanding that love is not about fulfilling expectations, but sustaining what you can genuinely offer. There's also a deeper philosophical element: existential awareness. People who don't want children often think in long arcs of consequence. They reflect on population ethics, environmental sustainability, or the emotional complexity of bringing life into an uncertain world. For some, this awareness leads to anxiety. For others, to acceptance, a peace with the idea that purpose can be broader than procreation. And yet, what stands out most is the quiet strength in these individuals. They face subtle judgment, the raised eyebrows, the "you'll change your mind someday" comments. But beneath those societal whispers lies a truth. It takes courage to honor what you truly want, especially when it contradicts what you've been told you should want. This isn't detachment. It's discernment, the ability to separate the noise of expectation from the whisper of authenticity. In the end, the psychology of people who don't want kids isn't defined by absence. It's defined by choice. A choice that reflects deep self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and a respect for the weight of responsibility. Some people express love by raising life. Others express love by protecting their own, by creating art, nurturing friendships, or building communities. Now, we'll explore the next layer, how childhood experiences, attachment styles, and worldview shape the decision not to have children, and what it reveals about identity, meaning, and emotional fulfillment. Because to understand those who choose not to create life, we must first understand how they create meaning. There's a quiet, often unspoken layer beneath the decision not to have children, a tapestry woven with threads of experience, fear, philosophy, and love expressed in non-traditional ways. Some people arrive at this choice through pain, others through peace. But beneath both paths lies a single psychological truth. Meaning isn't inherited, it's constructed. Psychologists studying life course theory have observed that people who opt out of parenthood often prioritize self-congruence, living a life that feels internally aligned rather than externally validated. They ask, what feels right for me, not just what looks right to others? This kind of introspection is deeply tied to high openness to experience, a personality trait linked to curiosity, imagination, and emotional depth. People high in openness often question traditional milestones. They don't reject them out of rebellion, but because they see more than one version of fulfillment. There's also the influence of existential anxiety, the awareness that time is finite and choices define us. For some, that pressure compels a desire for legacy through children. For others, it invites the opposite, a minimalist approach to life, focus on depth rather than expansion. Some individuals fear repeating emotional pain, what psychologists call reproductive anxiety. It's not just about financial or practical readiness. It's emotional inheritance. They worry, what if I pass on my pain? What if I'm not capable of unconditional love? This isn't coldness. It's self-examination, an emotional audit of one's capacity to nurture without losing oneself. Others, however, are driven by a purpose beyond the personal. They want to pour their energy into causes, creativity, or change that touches many rather than one. They don't see it as a lack of nurturing instinct. They see it as redistribution. Love, to them, isn't confined to biology. It's a broader human offering. And then there's a subtle but powerful form of resistance, psychological individuation. Carl Jung described it as a process of becoming whole, of separating one's identity from inherited expectations. For many, choosing not to have kids is part of that individuation, a quiet reclaiming of the self from cultural scripts that say adulthood must look a certain way. In this light, their decision isn't a rejection of life, but an affirmation of conscious living, a life not built on default settings, but on deliberate choice. When you sit with someone who has chosen not to have children, you might notice something profound, a calm honesty about what they can and cannot give. That kind of honesty is rare. It's easy to follow the expected path, to let tradition answer life's hardest question for us. But to say, I choose differently, requires emotional courage, the kind born from deep introspection, not detachment. Many of these individuals carry a kind of quiet empathy. They may not want children, but they care deeply about the world those children would inherit. They often advocate for sustainability, mental health, equality, the collective well-being of future generations. They express care not through parenting, but through preservation. There's something almost poetic about that. It reminds us that love doesn't have a single form. Some people express it through raising a child's hand. Others express it through holding space for the world to breathe. And perhaps that's the deeper psychology here. The realization that fulfillment doesn't always come from continuation, but from contribution, from the life you build, not the life you birth. Psychologists note that people who make this choice often develop adaptive meaning-making. They learn to transform potential guilt or social pressure into peace. By defining worth internally, their sense of purpose isn't diminished by absence. It's defined by authenticity. In that stillness, that choice to not add more noise to the world, but to refine their own, there's a subtle form of wisdom. It's the recognition that you can care deeply for humanity without reproducing it, that you can honor life by choosing how and whether to continue it. To want children is human. To not want them is human too. Both choices spring from the same soil, the desire to live a meaningful life, guided by awareness rather than instinct. If anything, this conversation reminds us of the quiet diversity of human purpose. That the measure of a life isn't how many lives it creates, but how deeply it understands itself. So, the next time you meet someone who says, "I don't want kids," listen without assumption, because behind that statement might be a story of healing, or of clarity, or simply of peace. And maybe the real question isn't why don't they want kids? Maybe it's what kind of life are they creating instead? If this reflection opened a new perspective, stay with us, subscribe, share, or simply keep thinking. Because psychology isn't just about others. It's a mirror for ourselves. And in that mirror, we might all find a truth we've quietly been waiting to admit.